Hello, everyone. Today, I am honored to be joined by Angie Peacock. Angie is a psychiatric drug withdrawal consultant and healing coach who, after going through her own difficult journey with psychiatric drug and withdrawal, she dedicated her work to helping others navigate protracted withdrawal and the long-term effects of these medications. Today, she supports people around the world who are struggling with complex withdrawal symptoms, helping them understand what is happening in their nervous system and guiding them towards recovery and healing. Angie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagy.
Okay, to begin with, can you please tell us briefly about your story? When did you first realize that something was wrong with the medication or the system, mental health system itself?
Well, I came from a family that used psychiatry. My dad was bipolar, so he went to a psychiatrist. And so I just thought that's where you go for help when you're overwhelmed with feeling and emotion. So I was actually deployed to the Middle East during the Iraq War, and they put me on medication from all that trauma that I experienced while overseas. And then I was prescribed a cocktail of 18 medications at the same time. Some of them were psychiatric, some of them, for the side effects of the medication. And to put that into terms, when I was on so much medication, I didn't even realize there was something wrong with that much amount of medication. Like, it took away my ability to even reason. So eventually I met a psychiatrist who took me off a bunch, but then I still had like 10 years of tapering that were ahead of me that I didn't really plan on coming off of all the drugs, but I had these little realizations that I don't feel good. Why don't I feel gratitude? Why can't I feel joy? Why can't I cry? Something is wrong. But I didn't really know it was the meds. They kept telling me that was your post-traumatic stress. That's your depression. That's your trauma. But there's just some little voice inside of me. It was just very small that just said, like, less medicine, less medicine, less medicine. And then the final drug, I was taken off cold turkey, which completely shocked my nervous system. And it led to a very, very long recovery period. And then it was very clear, these medications hurt me very badly.
Okay, so when I read about your story, there was one time in your life you were on 18 medications. Could you tell us more about this phase in your life?
Yes. It started with an anti-anxiety drug right when I got home from Iraq. Then it was an antidepressant, then a beta blocker. Then I couldn't sleep. Then I had headaches, then hormones, then an antipsychotic. And it just snowballed into this huge, my hands were full with medicine every day to pop, and I really thought my doctor knows what he's doing. He's telling me what to take, and this is going to make me feel better. But I did not feel better. I felt worse than ever. I felt numb and not myself, completely disconnected from friendship, from feeling, from motivation to do anything. I just really laid on the couch and read books trying to help myself. I did not know what was happening, but I didn't realize the meds were actually keeping me sick and making me more sick than I needed to be.
So since you could classify yourself that you were a professional psychiatric patient.
Yes.
Okay. So in all of these years, what can you tell us that what is wrong in mental health system itself? What was the main problems you faced that really hurt you?
I think the biggest problem right now is that we have people that are on medication. I was one of them. And instead of seeing that their illness could be made worse, or a new illness looks like it's appearing, but it's from the medication, from the treatment itself, and it's not the original condition. The condition is being worse. So instead of adding medications, the practitioners are not asking the question, are they being made worse by the medication? So let's take some of it away. So for instance, if somebody has suicidal thoughts, but they're on medication, that's seen as an emerging illness. Like, let's put more medication on this person. But for me, the suicidal thoughts were coming from the medication, so they should have been taking it away, not adding to it.
To move to our next question, what are some of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to stop psychiatric medications, and why is slow tapering so important?
That's a great question. And I would say most people that find me online have made all the mistakes. So usually it's long-term use and they use a really fast taper. Usually their doctor will tell them, oh, you can be off of this in a month. Just have it, have it, and have it. And then you can be off. That is one mistake that most people fall into because the doctors are not responsible enough to slowly taper them. The second, I think the second mistake is people don't feel good, but they don't think it's the medicine. So then they go get MRIs and CT scans and blood tests, and they go looking for another illness. And in the meantime, they'll see lots of providers who will give them more medication. So next thing, they didn't feel good on one, but now they're on five. That's the second mistake. But the biggest part about tapering these days, we have to be honest about this. Not everybody needs a very long, slow taper, but there are many who do. So the only way to know if you're one of them is there's some risk factors that we know about withdrawal. One, you've been on long term. So like think like more than 6 months to a year or 2 years. Two, you've had lots of drug changes in the past. Three, you're very symptomatic. If those three things are happening, people need to go slowly. We don't like to guess. We don't say, let's just see what happens when you 50% cut your drug. That's what the mainstream does. So the people that I work with, they're going very slowly. Their doctors are guiding them like 5% or 2%. And let's just see, it's a test dose to see how your system can handle a very small cut. And then they build up from there to find a sweet spot. So maybe month one, it's 2%. Month two is 2% of the current dose. Month three, it's 3%. Month four, it's 4%. And they just slowly build up and come down slowly. And yes, it does take a very long time. But the alternative is you don't want a really harsh, intense, life-threatening withdrawal because these drugs can be very hard to come off of for many people.
Yeah, exactly. Previously, I had Dr. Anders Sorensen on the show, and he taught us about all of the principles of hyperbolic tapering. And
Yes.
I found that this kind of education is really missing in our region.
Yes.
To move to our next questions, why should someone, in your own opinion, why should someone start questioning the authority of their healthcare provider or their psychiatrist? Aren't they, after all, the experts in the field?
Ooh,
It's a very charged question. I know,
I
but
like it.
I want to
Yeah.
start thinking about it with you because your life story is really all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's more like a higher spiritual thing for many people. They don't feel good. They don't know why. Then they start to think maybe it's the drug. Like, I can't explain why that is in someone's heart, but that's what I see over and over again. That was on my heart. People just don't feel good. They are doing everything their doctors say. They are going to therapy. They are doing self-help. They're doing everything that experts are telling them, and they don't feel good. The treatment is not working for some reason for many people. Some people that like to take medication, I'm not here to coerce anyone to tell them to think how I do. It's up to the individual. But if you've been in the mental health system, I was in for 13 years. I did everything. I did all the therapies, all the medicine, and I felt worse and worse and farther away from myself than ever. So it just it was like a dead end. Like I did everything, and then now what? Like I just reached a dead end. It didn't work for me. It doesn't work for everyone, and some people it can hurt very deeply.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to tapering, because you work in this field, you must know that all the wrong advice that is given to people in this area. So, how could people start search for themselves about this new information? Because uh, they can just trust their healthcare giver right now, but they must search for themselves and try to find real answers. So how can someone, after the authority of his healthcare giver is destroyed, can find and search for the truth
Yeah,
himself?
that's a very good question because you do need a level of discernment because there's a lot of bad information online. So think about You need to keep things very simple. If you are on medication that makes you feel sick, you should consider a slow taper off, but you don't want to make it more difficult on yourself by adding more drugs or supplements, or when you start to not being able to sleep, because sleep disturbance is going to happen. Anxiety probably will happen. Depression might happen, but these are products of the taper, not you. So some of the pitfalls I see people fall in is their sleep starts to break up because they're tapering, and then they want to sleep and they get hyper focused on their sleep. And then they might hire a sleep coach or start watching all these sleep videos and sleep hygiene. And then they become completely obsessed with sleep. And then they convince themselves, if I don't sleep, I'm going to go crazy and I can't heal without sleeping. And then they go on a sleeping pill. And now we're on the same problem as before because you were trying to get off an antidepressant and now you're going to have to try to get off a sleeping pill. So we can't fall into that same trap. So the most responsible thing to do is slow taper that what your body can handle, eat good food, get sunshine, be around people that love you, and that's it. Don't complicate it with new treatments and stem cell and ashwagandha and all these things that people do. Leave your body alone. Your body knows how to heal, but you got to stay out of the way and don't fight the symptoms so hard. That you will have symptoms. It's normal. It's evidence that your body's trying to recover from what happened. Leave it alone, please.
Okay, many people unfortunately follow bad advice and taper off their medications so fast and
Too
end
fast.
up in
Yeah.
what is called protracted withdrawal. What
Mhm.
exactly is protracted withdrawal, and how is it different from the typical short-term withdrawal that people are usually told to expect?
Yeah. I don't even like that term because the way I see it, we all make mistakes and it destabilizes our nervous system. So I just like to call it destabilization. It's not like a long-term permanent condition. Just think of it as everything was in homeostasis. And then when you taper too fast, it gets out of balance. And then things take a while to settle and go back to homeostasis. So you don't want to end up in that situation because it's very hard. I always show my clients this explanation. Your nervous system likes everything to be stable. You want to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, eat at the same time, take your pills at the same time. When you taper too fast, it goes like this. And then it's very hard to get it back normal. So when you taper, you just want a little bit of wave and then you want it to settle. And then you want a little bit of wave and you want it to settle. The only way to do that is to make very small adjustments and see what you can handle. When you make too big ones and you guess, this is very hard to get it back to settle. So I like to think of it as destabilization. Yep.
Okay, so what are some kind of the symptoms that people commonly experience during let's call it destabilization or
Whatever.
protracted
Yeah.
withdrawal or whatever. Yeah.
I
So
was,
yeah, we
yeah,
want
I
to
would,
warn. We want to warn people about how
yes.
difficult it can be, and I want to I want you if you can share with us some of your horrible experience that you went through after your abrupt stop of your medication.
Yes. It feels like post-traumatic stress, but 100 times worse than any trauma that you could experience. So high levels of terror, anxiety all day, 24 hours a day that make it so difficult that you can't fall asleep. Burning skin. You can feel movement in your brain, head pressure that feels like your brain is being squeezed, high blood pressure, heart palpitations, muscle pain, nerve pain, weakness, fatigue. You can't take a shower. You can't go for walks. You can't work. People lose their jobs. People lose their partners. It is very difficult. If you hit this, it's very serious. And for some, it can be suicidal thoughts. It can be life threatening. So it's not anything small, which I think is the biggest problem in mainstream psychiatry is they don't appreciate how difficult this is. It is very difficult. It's one of the hardest experiences on the planet. And you don't want to mess with your nervous system and the body. It's this delicate, it's beautifully orchestrated. And we've put drugs in it, and it does not go back to normal overnight. And so you need to really be respectful of that.
Okay. To move to our next question. some people going through withdrawal, they experience extremely severe suffering and even suicidal thoughts. How when someone in withdrawal feels suicidal, what helps them survive these moments, and how do you support individuals who are in that state? How do you deal with
That would say,
suicidality?
yeah, that's probably 70% of my clients are suicidal. Okay. And that's why I don't work in the system, because the system would say you need to take them to psychiatry and get on more medication. And these people have identified this is actually coming from the medication. So they don't want more medication. They also have the awareness, I don't really want to die. I like to call it lifecidal. They want to live, they want their lives back. And that suffering is so painful, it can cause suicidal ideation. Like, I just want to feel normal. So they do have suicidal thoughts, usually from too fast tapers or the way that traditional doctors are taking them off way too quickly. So the way that we work with them is we all identify this is from the taper. This is from withdrawal. This is not me. These are not my wishes. This is not something I want to do. This is due to the chemicals that are all mixed up in my nervous system, how confused it is, feeling like this. It's going to have thoughts that are not something that I actually want. So we always keep a space in there. This is not me. This is not something I should marinate or ruminate or do or plan. Like, you want to keep a little distance from it, like you're watching it. And we know it's temporary, it goes away, it's not real. It's just part of the chemicals that are messed up right now. So that's kind of how we support them. There is some risk factors I should probably talk about. You don't want doubt. Like, I see a lot of people get in trouble when they are pretty convinced that it's the medication that's causing it, or that they're trying to get off and it's the taper. But then they have family members that are saying, no, you're just mentally ill. Go back on your medicine. Go back to your doctor. Stop. That kind of doubt you really don't want. You want people in your life that support you and that understand this issue and that will help you through it. You don't want a lot of doubt.
But from my own experience working with some of these people, the, how can you convince someone and give someone hope that this was not permanent? When he is right now, he's feeling like complete anhedonia, complete hopelessness, that he just wants this pain to end. If you could share with us some of your, like, let's call
Here's
it
some of my
coaching
knowledge.
skills,
Yeah,
coaching
yeah.
skills or something.
Well, usually I draw people a picture on my little chart, but I don't have my marker right now. But usually I draw them a picture and I say, like, imagine you just got hit over the head with a baseball bat, or you got in a car accident, and I'm asking you to do math. You can't do math because your brain is injured. So if you know that your perception of what is happening right now in itself is injured, I'm not thinking correctly. So I have to kind of like not trust myself. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but like, I cannot trust the thoughts that are coming out of a body that has full of anxiety and akathisia and not sleeping. I am not thinking correctly. So I do have to rely on my support system or people like you that are supporting them, that this is temporary. This could stop tomorrow. You should not make a permanent decision in something that is so temporary. I know it doesn't feel good. I know it's painful, but actually some of these symptoms are evidence that your body is trying to correct what happened. It's evidence that your body is trying to heal. It's not, I know it doesn't make sense to you. I know it's painful. You will get through this. We have thousands of people, I'm one of them, who have had suicidal thoughts that went away and I didn't have to do anything and I didn't follow through with it. Do not listen to your thoughts. You are not your thoughts, especially in withdrawal. And they need to hear it from 8,000 people while they're in it. And just,
So
not do it.
Community support is really important here. So the person must get involved in community. But I believe that many of the online support groups and online communities are a little bit biased, because the people who recover simply leave these communities. So if anyone searched about any information in these communities, he will only find the bad ones, the very bad cases,
scary
that
stuff.
didn't recover.
I always draw this picture, like, here's the different healing processes. A person has a crash and then they climb out. A person has a long, slow climb out of their crash. A person has waves and windows, waves and windows. You're only reading a small sliver of everyone on their worst day with their worst symptoms, feeling the most desperate. You're only reading that sliver. You're not reading the people that are doing better or the people that were crashed and now they're better. And I've done this in my groups a lot. We have groups of people that meet, every week that are tapering. And I say, how many of you had a crash and then you felt better? Did you go back and write in the Facebook group? And they say, no. Why would I? I felt better. So you are reading a very biased selection. There are posts in there sometimes that people come back and say, I'm better, I healed, keep going. But you have to read through a lot of scary stuff to get there. And when you keep reading all the scary stuff, it can make this much worse, and it makes your suffering worse, and you get more fearful. And then that feeds the symptoms with stress hormone that we don't necessarily want to do. So I really think everyone should find healing buddies, find someone in your country that is doing some of this work, hang on to them, use them as your anchor. Even if you can only see them once a week or once a month, that's your person that you go to for my anchor. People in my groups, they connect outside of the group, they talk to each other, and they have an agreement, like if you're suicidal, maybe don't tell me that because I can't handle that right now. But they focus on healing, share wins that they did that day, share improvements in their symptoms, and they keep each other going because we understand it. If you tell your family member, they're like, I don't know what you mean. You need people that are going through it.
Yeah, exactly. And so many times the family members are so invalidating of the person's experience. So it's really important to get into such communities. What advice do you give to people to deal with their family members, because this is a really important problem. How do you help them deal with their family members who simply don't understand and underestimate what they are going through?
Yeah, I'd say it's worth trying, but if you read this article, watch this video, you got to see this person. If you're going after them like a politician, they're not gonna. It actually makes them more defensive. So I would say you can only plant small seeds. One thing I advise, my story was in the film Medicating Normal. It's translated into several languages. It's free on YouTube. You could have a family member watch that film, Medicating Normal. You just want to talk to them gently. Like, I am coming off this medication. I've been on it for many years and I'm having very severe symptoms. And I know I look normal and I sound normal, but I don't feel normal on the inside. It's going to take me several years to get back to how I feel. I'm going to do my best, but I do need your support. And then that's it. Just small little doses of that, because I see a lot of survivors, they just try to convince everyone in their life, and they look how these drugs are bad. Psychiatry is evil. Like, you sound crazy when you do that. So it's just very small. Keep your emotion as low as you can, just to try to get as much support as you can. And if they don't support you, or they're not curious about it, or they're defensive, you need to go find someone else that is, and don't keep trying to convince them, because that can make you hurt more. Just find people that do understand you and believe you.
So our next question I want to ask is, are there factors that can either accelerate healing or slow down recovery during protracted withdrawal? Because the top question that I get asked in this topic is, what is for how many? What is the time? Will it last for more than a year? Will it last for more than 3 years? What is the time frame? How can I fasten my recovery? How can I end this hell as soon as possible? So is there some things that people do that can either accelerate or make it much longer, their own experience?
Yeah, I think it's usually alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, soda, sugar, bad food, like all these things that your body's trying to compete with all these chemicals. And, you don't have to be perfect, but again, keep it very simple. If you're tapering the drug, don't add a bunch of things. Go slow on your taper so that you don't have to. But it's always this desperation and this need, like, I need to make my suffering stop. That is what got us into this in the first place. There is no magic pill to get you out of it. You do have to go slow, and you have to suffer a little bit. I know that is very hard for me to say, but there's no easy way out. Like, once we're kind of injured, once we've been on these medications long term, our body needs time to adapt. It just takes time. A body and a nervous system does not heal overnight. So I would look at your desperation and your need and just be really gentle and self-compassionate with that, because you are in a lot of suffering and pain, but there's no easy answer out here. And I would say some of the answers that people find make their suffering worse, not better. So you have to kind of be really strong, even when you don't want to, because the injury is pretty intense. Another thing I think is just, I always say like I'm a healing coach, but I have to help people learn how to suffer, because we are suffering. And so really it's living in the present moment, taking things really slow, being very gentle on yourself. Your nervous system is feeling the pressure too. When you put pressure on it and you say, I got to heal. Why don't I have windows yet? Why am I still sick? That's interpreted as danger to the nervous system, and it increases your suffering. So less fighting the symptoms, less resistance to what's happening. You want to try to stay in the surrender, patience, giving it time, keeping it simple, radical acceptance that I was injured. This is going to take time. My nervous system is healing. Don't fight the symptoms so hard. Let them be. Don't treat the symptoms either. Like every little symptom, I have to treat it and make it stop. You know.
And what about insomnia? How can someone suffering from protracted withdrawal or going through that emotional destabilization, how can someone fix his, like, get some sleep or fix his sleep? Because many of these people are like barely sleeping 2 hours or
Yes.
3 hours,
I slept 20
and
minutes to 1 hour the
like,
first year.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
nothing.
I am a normal
Nothing.
person, and if I slept for one day for just 2 hours, I feel crap like the whole day. So it's really
Yep.
hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. I would say you're not gonna like my answer. You're not sleeping because your body doesn't want you to sleep, because it's working on something. And you don't need to treat it the way that you think you need to treat it. Which is, people don't, I mean, it sounds radical coming out of my mouth, because medicine would say, no, the person needs to be on medication. You have to sleep. You can't heal without sleeping. Okay, but we're in a crossroads here. The medication is what caused them to not sleep, and their taper was too fast. Okay, so now their body's in this high state of activation, and it's trying to get back to homeostasis. You can't force that down again. We keep throwing drugs. We don't know what they do. They're interrupting a person's healing process, or they're, making their long-term success take longer, because now they're going to have to, taper off of a psych drug, another one. So at some point, you're going to have to deal with not sleeping. Now, is there room for harm reduction? Yes. Harm reduction is the principle, like maybe instead of putting the person on an antipsychotic, they get magnesium or melatonin or something more gentle. Okay, maybe a beta blocker. Maybe even you take a fake pill and you placebo effect yourself. This is going to help me sleep. I know that sounds crazy, but it works. Okay. Take a vitamin, something. And then be okay with not sleeping. You don't need to sleep perfect. I have never had anyone go crazy because they didn't sleep. It was almost like it's evidence that the body's trying to repair something that happened. That's why there's a disturbance. Also, just rest, lay down, put a blanket over your head, lay quietly whenever you can. You could chant, you could pray, you could meditate, anything that keeps you kind of quiet. That is helpful too.
Yeah, great. I want to move to another subject here, because it's really important one, and I believe it's one of the main core issues with uh, psychiatric medications, and how is the mental health system is running right now. The Latin root word for emotion is the word motor, and it is it to move. Yeah, so
Mhm.
emotions are like that inner compass. They move us towards our final destinations. So what do you think that happen when psychiatric medications numb these emotions? How does emotional numbing affect psychotherapy, personal growth, and the healing process? Because many people argue for psychiatric medications because they numb the bad emotions, but I believe that it's more complicated than that, because there is no bad and good emotions. All emotions are have a certain
Information.
purpose
Yeah.
and information. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this topic because I would argue that when you're on medication, you lose access to some of your emotion, or you don't care about it as less, or you're not aware of it. There's a kind of a numbing effect. Okay. So when people are on medication long term, especially, we get very disconnected from our bodies. It's almost like the medication also causes that. So everybody I work with is very in their head, overthinking, analyzing, trying to figure things out. They're very thoughtful. They're not in their body. And now when you're in withdrawal, the body becomes dangerous. Like it feels like I'm being tortured. So it's not a safe place to be or to explore or to feel anything. So especially when you feel terror and anxiety, then you go into your head more. Okay. So as the person enters like acute withdrawal or this, when you feel very wavy, this is dangerous. It does not feel good. There's no processing happening. They are trying to just survive, make it through the day, stay alive. Okay. After that calms down a bit, then they start getting emotion. And you'll see it, I call it neuro emotion, where it's like a little heightened, like they have a lot of rage. They're very angry. They might throw things. They might be weepy. They're crying all the time. They might be emotionally sensitive. They feel everything way too deeply, like somebody just looks at them wrong and it's like, oh, they don't like me, they hate me, I'm a burden. It's very heightened. Okay. Part of that is you just come out of a fight or flight state and your emotions are starting to come back. But part of it is, years of not feeling emotion, and they feel so out of proportion. So like I'll always say, like, this much of it was real. Like maybe your friend was rude to you, but like the fact that they hate you and they don't want to be around you and they're a burden, that's probably from this withdrawal effect. Like it's just heightened stuff. It's not real. It's extra, you know? So then what I see is it'll kind of pendulum swing. It's like a lot of emotion and then nothing. And then a lot more emotion and then nothing. And then eventually the person kind of balances out and everything kind of feels more, okay, this is real. However, this part of the journey, I find I actually like working with people in this part because they have to learn again. It's okay to have emotion. There's no good or bad. Let's just take it as it comes. And you just are very present with it. You might feel angry. You might feel some old trauma come back. It's okay. I can handle it. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually kind of precious. This is what we wanted. We wanted our humanness back, and now we have it. So don't be afraid of it. You can be with it. There's lots of old things that can be processed. I can't tell you how many times I just laid and cried and I didn't even know why. I was like, it's okay. Just something needs to come out. There's something that was trapped in there. And then last thing is, I tell people all the time, if you were on medication for 20 years, there's a lot of things that happen in those 20 years. There's a lot of energy that wasn't really processed that's kind of in there. And so you don't necessarily need to go back and like process your old stuff. It's going to come up in the present, but just realize that your humanness is coming back. There's nothing bad about it. It's actually good, but you do need to reconnect with your body again and stop living in your head so much. There is like a traveling down that needs to occur, and to get back in touch with the emotion and be okay with it.
Yeah, it's really important to do that, and I believe that we need to change our own reaction with bad emotions and pain in life in general, because these emotions have messages that if you feel helpless, if you feel sad, if you feel afraid, you must listen to these voices, because many people who, when they have these hard emotions and they simply go to their psychiatrist, they just like an SSRI, like take this and you will and everything will be. But I believe it's like it's counterproductive. So there's something really wrong in this area. So
the way I've realized it recently. Recently I've come to the conclusion, like, that's how we all ended up on medication, because we were afraid of our feeling of sensations in our body, of some overwhelming emotion. And what we needed was someone to help us navigate that and learn about that and how to be with it. Okay. So when you go on medication and you don't get that chance to learn about yourself, when you come off, you must learn how to process emotion, how to be with emotion, how to not be afraid of emotion. Otherwise, you're going to repeat the same mistake. So you were afraid of things happening in your body and in your mind, and now you're going to be afraid of things happening in your body and your mind, but for a slightly different reason because of the withdrawal effects. But it's still the same fear, and so we do have to learn how to be human again.
Yeah, exactly. So to move to our next questions, uh, how can someone not identify with his diagnosis? Because many people, like when I talk to them, they identify themselves with their mental illness. Like I am bipolar. Like instead of I have bipolar. No, I am bipolar. I am schizophrenic. How can someone get rid of this identity and
I mean,
get back to
yeah,
to himself?
I was actually surprised because the people that I work with, I've only had maybe two in the last 4 years that actually still identify with their illness. Everyone else, when they realized the drugs made me worse, psychiatry is kind of based on not good evidence. I'll just put it like that. And is there really like something medically wrong with me that needs a drug? No. So like they kind of have to do their own learning and learn about like where does diagnosis come from? Who created those? What kind of science backs that up? So once people do that, they kind of start questioning like what does this even mean? Okay. However, the question always comes up, how do I know this is me? What if this is real depression and not a withdrawal effect? Or like who am I going to be? There is uncertainty. Um so people, sometimes I'll coach around this like, okay, so let's assume you're bipolar. Let's assume that you've tried, tell me what you've tried. And they'll say, I've tried this and this and this medication and all these things. Okay, did that work for you? And they'll say no. Okay, so if you have bipolar, but you've tried all these things that the mainstream offered, now what are you going to try now that you're coming off the drug? Like, how are you going to heal this? And that's the person's responsibility to go find the answer for themselves. It could be a nutrition issue. It could be some family patterns that make them react a certain way. It could be their own regulation. They don't know how to regulate emotion. I've even met people that identify with bipolar. They're just high energy people. They have a lot of ideas. Is that a medical problem? I don't know. That's up to them to figure out. But I don't know. I always think it's just a circular reasoning. Like, okay, maybe I am mentally ill, but I tried all the treatments and they didn't work for me. So if I'm still mentally ill, then what am I going to do about that? And they have to find that answer for themselves.
Mm-hmm. To move to our next question here, withdrawal from psychiatric medications can be incredibly traumatic experience. So how can people, instead of getting post-traumatic stress disorder, get post-traumatic growth, which is
Yes.
something very, very
Yes.
different and happens to few people. How can if you can share with us your own experience, how did you find
Yeah.
meaning in your suffering that turned this experience
Yes.
into something beautiful in the end? Because many people are just like, this is absurd, this is meaningless, this is
It is
meaningless suffering.
absurd. It is.
I don't have anything to justify this suffering. I don't have any,
No.
I don't see any meaning in it. So how can someone start
Yep.
seeing even a little bit of purpose, a little bit of meaning that justify the suffering that he is going through?
Yeah. I don't think it should ever be justified because this is, like you said, absurd. It's absolutely injustice. It's a human rights problem. Like it should have never happened to any of us. I'm not mincing words. Okay. It's actually kind of evil what happens to people. They don't get an apology. They don't get money back. They don't get their partners back. They don't get their dignity back. Like this is taking years for people to recover from. Okay. It took me 6.5 years to walk into a cafe and order a tea and not feel like I was being traumatized just from being in the world. Like it was a very, very long time. So I think a lot of things can be true at the same time. This should have never happened ever. It's evil. And I did have to grow through it because I didn't really have a choice. Okay. So the way I think everybody's meaning has to come from themselves. But for me, I can just tell you, I was putting way too much trust in doctors. I was leaning on experts. I was exporting my mental health to people who didn't know shit about me, excuse my language. And that cost me a lot. So I do take some of the blame. I will never make that mistake again. Okay. However, through the process of suffering, I had to learn to be in the present moment. I had to learn not to believe my thoughts. I had to, rely on an invisible power of the universe, like I have to just hope that I'm going to heal because I don't even know. Lots of uncertainty, minute by minute suffering. I listened to lots of podcasts and learned about radical acceptance and meditation and everything I could find to help me get through this. And I think all of us have to do that. So you also get a new relationship with yourself. Like that's been very important for me. Like now I trust myself. Now I listen to my intuition. I was very disconnected from it before. So it has a way, this experience has a way of putting you back on alignment in a very violent way that you were not living your life good in some capacity. Now that's not everybody, because some people, they took one dose and it injured them. That's not everybody. So everybody has to find their own meaning. But the way I see it is the reason I work in this field is because I had it so bad. The suffering was so bad. I learned so much about how to get through it that I feel like a sacred responsibility to share that. Secondly, I'm not the kind of person that can just walk away and go live my life and act like this didn't happen. I can't, I'm not wired like that. And then third, it's a little bit of peace that I get when I see someone heal, that they get their lives back, they got through the experience. Like it helps me heal a little bit deeper, I think, when I see them heal. So, yeah.
I really love the school of logotherapy.
Yes.
The ideas of
Yes.
Viktor Frankl.
Victor Frankl. Yes.
So, do you believe that this experience has turned you into a wounded healer?
Yes, for sure.
Would you choose
Sure.
and would you choose it over again to make you do
No.
the kind of work?
No. I would
Okay.
no. I would be a mother and have children and vacation in Florida. No.
Okay.
I would never. No. It's the worst experience I've ever been through, for sure.
Okay. So the but right now you can, if someone is wondering about how absurd is it, and like reading something like Albert Camus and the Myth of Sisyphus and all of that, does the rock went away? Does the curse went away eventually? Did you after all of this suffering, did you find something that make it not that absurd?
Of course. Like what it did for me, if you want to talk about post-traumatic growth or something, it's like you get all these gifts from it that you would not have gotten otherwise. So I live deeper, I'm more compassionate, I'm more gentle with myself, I love deeper. I see, like last night, I can show you on my phone, but last night I went to this beautiful sunset and I was just like, oh my God, like that made my whole day. I was just like, that is beautiful. I didn't notice things like that before. So I think there's a zest for life that I'm like, I understand that life is very short and very precious and fragile, and we don't know when we are going to go. And you need to live your life now because it could be taken away from you at any moment. And I think I live in that. Like I'm aware of it. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't like haunt me, but it's like I'm very aware that you have to live right now. This is all we have. So that's kind of what I got out of it. And I just like say yes more. I'm less afraid of life. Like, because when you've gone through so much fear, it's like, this is nothing. Who cares if you have traffic or, your dog ran away? It's okay. Everything will figure itself out compared to what you've been through,
What message would you give to your previous self? Like if you would return back 10 years ago and leave a message to your previous self about recovery and about all of these things, what message would you leave?
I think I would tell myself, you just need time, you need love, you need to be okay with what happened. Like feel how traumatized you feel, how scary that was, and rest and just be gentle. Like I really think when I think back about what happened, I was robbed of a healing process. They took it from me, something that I could have done on my own or with other people that loved me. And it just makes me sad. Like I was like a 24-year-old girl, very good at my job, physical fitness, felt good about myself. And then just hard things happened like they do to all of us, and instead of getting like I was given medicine, and it's very frustrating to think about. And it happens to thousands and thousands of people all over the world.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately. Many people watching this right now are currently in severe pain and in severe withdrawal, and they feel they like will never recover from it. Is it really permanent? What message would you give to someone who is in the darkest phase right now and believes that this will stay forever? I lost myself. I am becoming insane. There's no hope at all. There's no light in the end of the tunnel. What message you would leave to someone
Yeah.
who is suffering right now?
I would say in your suffering, you are not going to feel hopeful or even feel realistic about what's actually happening. And I can tell you that after working with thousands of people, interviewing all the main researchers and academics, I spent a week with Anders. He came and traveled with me for a week. Everyone I've ever talked to, everyone I've ever met, everyone I've ever, supported, we've all recovered. Okay. Anything lingering takes care of itself after many, it can take months for some of us, years. It just depends on the person, but nothing in this whole world is permanent. Everything is always moving. And I would say stop looking at your symptoms as injury and damage. Your symptoms are evidence that your body is trying to recover. There's a mechanism in there trying to fix what happened. So don't look at everything. You could even, let's make it halfway. Part of it is my injury, but part of it is my healing. Okay. If it was permanent damage, you wouldn't have these symptoms that move and change and pop up and go away. Like there's something happening beneath the surface. So I always tell people to think of a flower. Like there's a seed that's planted and there's a lot going on beneath the dirt and you can't see it. Okay, so you're not going to see it underneath your symptoms. But then when your symptoms start to fall away, you get a little bit more evidence of that. So don't be so sure that you think you know what's happening at your worst. Okay, that could be the bottom and you will start to come out of it. Everyone comes out of it. It's not a permanent condition. Thank God. Our bodies are just a little bit smarter than these drugs. So that's what you got to hang on to. So 2 things I tell people just to leave you with. 1, you have to trust your body's ability to self-heal. Okay, that's beyond your belief. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to think about it. Okay. Number 2, your human spirit is so strong, it will help you survive. So whatever you found your way to this video or to you or to me, that thing is keeping you alive, is going to get you through this. So those are beyond belief. You don't have to like pray or chant mantra about that. That's just the truth of it. That's not toxic positivity. That's just the way we heal from the.
Yeah, exactly. And I would love to make a follow-up question here and talk about the role of agency. How not to fall into complete victimhood mentality and surrender to it. Because when I read and did some research about you, you were very active during all of this suffering. You didn't like shut down and stay in a dark room. You were active. You were going. You were making films.
Trying.
You was trying. You're
Trying.
So how can someone have agency over his own recovery and help himself not to fall into victimhood mentality?
I think there is a place for victimhood, just to realize you were victimized. Okay, so let's not jump over it, but you just don't want to stay there. So like when I found out that, oh my God, there was nothing mentally wrong with me, I was actually having a correct reaction to trauma, and then they injured my brain, and now I have to heal from this. Of course I'm angry. You should be. If you're not angry, then something's wrong. Okay, so there was a place for victimhood. Also, there was a place where the energy in my body was so activated, like hyperarousal. I could not sit still. And I had the feeling if I actually sat still and realized what happened to me, I think I would explode. So what am I going to do when all of this is landing on me at once and I don't have support and I feel like I'm going insane? What am I going to do? And we all have to come to that moment like, okay, I realize what just happened. I've learned enough. Now what? And in that now what, for me, it was I have to stay in reality somehow. I have to act normal because my brain is telling me all the wrong things, and I need to stay in something that's tangible and relational, and I need to be around people. And so for me, I was like, I have to be around people. There was this drive that I have to act normal and be around people, or I'm going to completely lose it by myself. So I see a lot of people, they stay at home, they're in a dark room, they read scary stories all day. Those people do worse. It's harder. You got to stay engaged in some kind of life, even if it's small, even if it's I walk my dog to the mailbox once a day, or I take care of my pet very well, or I see my neighbor, or I've even had people say they talk to the Amazon driver. That's all the human connection they have. Okay. But they have something. Okay. And to just know there's a big healing process going on here, and you're just in one day of it. Could be months or years for you, depending on the person. Okay. It's not always going to be the worst that it feels today. It waxes and wanes. It comes and goes. Things are harder sometimes. There's periods of more delicate times. So your job is to like get to the more delicate, easier times. You know, you don't fall victim to just this worst day. But, you know, a lot of people too, I tell them their why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to come off meds? And you got to pull on that. You know, for me, it was, I'm not going to let them kill me, because they're going to say, oh, she was mentally ill. We tried to help her. No, I'm mad. That's not what happened. I'm going to stay alive and tell my story, and I'm going to help other people, because this is so wrong. So like, I want you to get mad. So take that victimhood, get mad about it, and use it to stay alive and to tell your story and to help other people. There's no power in just, you know, feel sorry for me. My life is over. You took in everything from me. You can feel that. It's true. And now what? It's up to you.
So this is like a healthy kind of vengeance, like you avenge for yourself by like
for yourself. You deserve it. You deserve a good life. They took it from you. And you deserve to get your brain chemicals back and to get your life back and go live the best life you've ever lived, and don't give them one more minute. You know, don't sit on Twitter and argue with psychiatrists all day. There's better things to do, I promise. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angie, for this rich discussion. I believe it will benefit so many people here in our region. Finally, where can people learn more about your work and find resources if they need help navigating psychiatric drug withdrawal?
Yeah, we have, my website is angiepeacock.com, and my Instagram and YouTube are probably the two most posted to, but my YouTube channel has like over 150 videos, lots of success stories. We even have a person from the Middle East sharing their success story. So hang on to the more positive, healing focused things. And I have lots of resources on my website too, but angiepeacock.com.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.